Hey YouTube, I am finally back with part 2 of Emmauel Lulu Moss's, better known as DDM, his live reading of Omarosa's book Unhinged. This one is just as hilarious as the first one. In this one he's going to talk about Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, and how he acts with women and being scandalous. And clearly it is hilarious, like the first one. I'm so excited to see this guy win and get all these likes and to, get his name out there. So let's continue to support him. Go to his Facebook page, whatever. Let's support this brother. And thank you. And let me know if you like it. Bye.
Hi guys, so I'm back to do another reading. Thank you for watching yesterday. I totally didn't expect that this many people would give a fuck about this book and somebody reading this book. But nevertheless, we're here. So, if you have Instagram, make sure you follow me at GoDDM, GODDM. But we're going to get into this book, bitch. Okay, so we left off yesterday scandalous. We went over how Omarosa got fired, the truth behind that, the setup, the whole shade. So today, we're going to talk about Omarosa's history with Hillary Clinton in the Clinton White House. I had no fucking idea that this bitch was connected. She like the Forrest Gump of politics out this motherfucker. So, we're going to talk about that, Donald's woman problem, and how he uses race to profit. So, according to Omarosa. Now, so far, the bitch has produced receipts, so I'm inclined to believe a lot of this shit. Now, I'm actually farther than a lot of you, so I'm just going to graze over some things that I learned. So I didn't know that Omarosa graduated from Howard with a master's. She's a bison. Who would have thought? I didn't know that she worked for Camille Cosby, Bill Cosby's wife, when she was in college. Like, this is craziness. I didn't know the bitch was in beauty pageants either. I mean, Omarosa not ugly, but it's like, I don't know. It's Omarosa. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you don't think beauty queen when you think Omarosa. But nevertheless, crazy shit, right? So, I'm going to get into this Hillary Clinton tea. Now, I'm going to go over one excerpt because I have to give this to you in context, okay? Because when you read the context of when she first started working in the Gore and Clinton White House, it'll make you understand how Hillary Clinton totally, like, the shade, like, Hillary's a shady bear. And now I understand why she didn't fucking win. I mean, I already knew why she didn't win, but this gives me even more insight as to why she didn't win. I know we all voted for Hillary, but goddamn it, it was like fucking swimming upstream in a boat with holes in the bottom. You knew it was a lost cause after a while, but nevertheless. So I'm going to start here. So I'm going to start where Omarosa's in college, and she starts working for the White Houses, right? So she goes, I learned in a heartbeat that politics was all about connections. During my graduate studies at Howard University, I took a job at a luxury apartment building called the Landsberg. There, I met a lot of powerful people, including Janet Reno, Maryland Drew, and most importantly, Doris Crenshaw, a lobbyist who hired me to do part-time clerical work and knew everybody in D.C. These are all people that was like the shit in the 90s when we was like kids. They not really like relevant now. So after I got my master's in May of 1998, she made introductions that helped me land a job in then Vice President Al Gore's White House office as a scheduling and advance coordinator. I assisted in processing all the correspondence and requests that came in and coordinating the logistics in advance of his travel. So basically, she would get his schedule together. You know, like, who knew she was doing this? This is crazy. And I Googled some of this, so I'm like, it's true. I'm like, it's there. You know what I'm saying? In Gore's office, a progressive, liberal, allegedly diverse administration, I was one of just a few African Americans. This is in the Clinton-Gore White House. It was a turbulent time to work in the White House. Then President Bill Clinton had been under investigation by Special Prosecutor Kenneth Starr. He was all over the news. That was like during the time when the Current Affair and Hard Copy and shit was on. Over the Monica Lewinsky scandal for some time. When the allegations first started to come out, no one in the administration thought they would amount to much. But every day brought a new revelation. Recorded conversations between Lewinsky and her colleague at the Pentagon, Linda Tripp. The blue dress, photos, denials, depositions, all that shit. And we all remember that blue dress bitch. I watched as his people denied, distracted, and deflected the allegations. And then, when that didn't work, they attacked and vilified his investigators. I didn't know it at the time, but I would see the same tactics 20 years later from a different man sitting in the Oval Office. Bitch. Gore and his people were focused on his upcoming presidential race. I remember that because you know Al Gore was trying to do a Bush move and get the next seat after Clinton came out. The big question was, should he put some distance between himself and Clinton, or should he stay loyal to the president? I heard about a position opening up in Bill Clinton's office for the final year of his second term, and I took it, even though my family wanted me to leave because of all the investigations and the toxic environment in the administration at that time. As soon as I arrived, I was labeled a Gore person because I continued to support him by volunteering for his campaign at night. Bitch, 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out. You gotta love this bitch. I was thrilled when Gore selected Donna Brazile as his campaign manager. Now, for all of you who watch CNN, Donna Brazile used to be like, you know, them people that go on and talk about politics, kind of like what I'm doing, but not as unfiltered. She was one of those people. She then became the president of the DNC after that whole shit fell out with the emails and how they sabotaged Bernie and threw him shade. She became the president after that. I was thrilled when Gore selected Donna Brazile. Donna was smart, powerful, self-possessed, and self-aware. I loved working with her. And above all, she was an unapologetically strong black woman. And I want y'all to listen to this next line. Many black political people try to refine themselves by losing their accents and culture signifiers, but Donna wore her Louisiana roots like a badge of honor. We all know that. We all know the bitch at work that act like she ain't never, you know, fell on hard times or come from where we come. We know these people. I know exactly who she's talking about. Okay, Donna was a snake whole time. Donna was a snake too, and we're going to find out about that bitch later. That's a sidebar though. I continued to do logistics work for the advanced office and had an opportunity to do advanced work for Hillary Clinton as well. Before the impeachment, I was absolutely captivated by Mrs. Clinton. She was remarkable, a strong woman with her own voice. She had a clear vision for our country and the direction she wanted to take it. She was the first lady since Eleanor Roosevelt to have a hand with setting domestic policy. Now, we're talking about 1990s Hillary Clinton, when it was still like, you know, she didn't turn into the Sith Lord. Okay? Donna did change her accent the whole time. Now, my feelings about her changed somewhat, however, after her husband's incident came into light. The president was not the first political husband to be caught in similar drama. It had played out countless times before and has since. We all know these, you know, politicians cheat on their wives and shit and do this crazy ass shit. The husband confesses to making a mistake. The good wife stands next to him and forgives him. The man seldomly experiences the consequences of his behavior. No shade, it's the truth. For once, I thought the scene would have been a different ending. Surely Hillary Clinton would not stand to be humiliated in public. She was too strong and too brilliant, an independent woman, a lawyer. So many women inside the White House and around the globe hoped that Mrs. Clinton would not tolerate her husband's chronic cheating. Women were coming out of the woodwork to accuse Bill Clinton of sexual abuses, which was the truth. Not only did Mrs. Clinton stand by him, but she attacked the woman. And that's the truth. Hillary came for them bitches, okay? Calling it a bimbo explosion. I remember feeling extremely disappointed. It seemed like she really wanted to help people, but she was incapable of helping herself. When I shared my feelings with Doris, Doris was the lady that got her the job at the White House. She said, Omarosa, politicians are just human. You have to separate their good works from their personal flaws. Here's where we got to pause. If we did that, okay, if we're separating their personal flaws, that's how we got the president we got in office now. But that's a whole nother conversation, bitch. Okay? So, that's just to give you insight, a little background. So, we're going to skip to chapter 5, because the rest of this shit is about Omarosa growing up in the projects and shit, which is a good read, but that's not why we're here. So, chapter 5, the woman problem. In early 2013, the Democratic Party's presumptive frontrunner was Hillary Clinton. She waited for Obama's 2 terms to wind down, and now it's her turn. We all knew how this story was supposed to turn out. All right, bitch, you gotta wait, because we got the first black president. Let him do his 2 terms, and then we're gonna bring your ass in, and you're gonna be the first women president. It's supposed to be a back on back, front on front. You know what I'm saying? It's supposed to be a trifecta out this motherfucker. Didn't pan out that way, but anyway. She waited for Obama's 2 terms to wind down, and now it was her turn. The idea of Hillary shattering the glass ceiling to become the first woman president was almost as thrilling as Barack Obama becoming the first black president. Although I'd been disappointed by her handling of her husband's infidelities in the 90s, I knew her to be a strong, smart woman of conviction and an inspirational figure. Then First Lady Hillary Clinton actually gave the commencement address when I graduated with my master's from Howard in 98. So Hillary, this is like, it's funny how the universe works and shit, how it attracts you to people and shit. So the bitch ended up doing a damn graduation speech at Omarosa master's degree at Howard. Crazy, right? And parts of her speech has stayed with me all these years. The speech spoke to me more than ever in 2013, given the surprising turns my life had taken. This is Hillary at the commencement. I think you can be a good citizen by defying conventional wisdom, she said in that address, and helping to track down the stereotypes that keep us locked in our own little worlds. I'm sure that all of you have had moments when your expectations of who someone was because of what they looked like or where they were from were shattered because you took the time to sit down and talk or grab a meal together or share a book. You've had the opportunity to spend the last 4 years in one of the most diverse settings imaginable, yet I would still bet it takes courage to take that first step and to put yourself beyond a place of comfort. Okay, kind of like we doing now with this book, bitch, because no shade, we all thought we knew who Omarosa was. I certainly bumped up against people's expectations of who I was, about gender and color, blah, blah, blah. Next paragraph. Okay, so my fellow Howard grad Quentin James, political influencer, community organizer, and then NAACP board member, was heading up the African American Finance Committee for the Ready for Hillary PAC. Now pause. For those of you who may not know, I think all of you are very smart people, most of you, but a PAC is a political action committee. Basically what they do is people with like-minded or who share the same types of agendas, they basically raise money and as a group, and they give this money to the candidate that they feel will lobby for their issues. Basically, it's a legal way of people paying for legislation to get passed. You scratch my back, you scratch yours. It's really paying for shit to get through. That's why a lot of these big companies and corporations, they have PACs. You know what I'm saying? So that's what a PAC is. So the next time you see shit on TV about a super PAC, PAC this and all that, that's what it is. So our clear understanding was that the members of the African American finance team will become an arm of her official campaign when the time came. But until she announced her candidacy, she couldn't have anything to do with her PAC. It is the standard procedure for the candidate to keep a PAC at arm's length. Although it seemed obvious to everyone that Ready for Hillary would be the rudimentary structure upon which her official campaign would be built. So basically, with these PACs, they can't really be associated with the PACs until they actually run. But it's like kind of like they kind of start these PACs before they even like really announce their candidacy. Because mind you, this is in 2013. I don't think Hillary announced her candidacy till like 15, somewhere like that. So this is how shady this politics shit work. Like they be planning these fucking campaigns for years, bitch. Like the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? During this time, oh, and before we get back in, mind you, I just read, the understanding was that the African American finance team, Ready for Hillary PAC, was going to be a part of the official campaign. Let's keep that in mind. During this time, I reached out to longtime Clinton advisor and political consultant Emmauel to see what the overall strategy was for her presidential campaign. She assured me the best vehicle to help Hillary Rodham Clinton was the Ready for Hillary PAC. So I doubled down on my efforts to raise money and awareness for Hillary. As a celebrity, my networks were vast, and I drew big crowds to events I organized for Ready for Hillary, which is totally believable. I was the special guest speaker at a fundraiser organized by Quentin at a Los Angeles nightclub on November 7th, 2013. Part of my speech was quoted in the Los Angeles Times the next day. All of us had, this is what she said, part of the speech. All of us have to stick together and get behind this sister because I'm going to tell you, when I was at the White House, she cared about each and every one of us and she made sure we stayed connected to the issues that were important. She ain't your sister, bitch. And I'm going to leave that at that. Okay? I meant every word. I believe that Hillary Clinton truly cared about the African American community. Mignon assured us that the powers that be were very pleased with our community's contributions, stating, "You will have a role," she said. It only made sense. We'd all worked together to create the infrastructure. It was logical that the people who had laid the foundation would build the house. As smart as she is, this is a gullible bitch. And you would think she came from the projects. Like, bitch, y'all don't know about her. Okay, anyway. When Hillary announced that her candidacy on April 12, 2015, the Ready for Hillary PAC closed down. And all of the resources shifted to the official presidential Ready PAC. Okay? We were all excited to make that transition and join what would surely be a historic campaign. I remember feeling a sense of belonging to something meaningful. But we didn't hear from them. We waited, and we waited some more. This way the shoe dropped, bitch. On May 29th, Quentin forwarded an email to our committee saying he would not be joining the Hillary for America campaign as African American Outreach Director after all, and that someone else would be serving in the role instead. I read this email in shock and called Quentin immediately. He was as angry and upset as I was. We felt duped and insulted. The woman they replaced him with had not been involved with Ready for Hillary. So this bitch wasn't even a part of the whole shit, okay? And I later learned that her appointment had been a quid pro quo deal. So basically they did a favor, okay, to secure a key endorsement from that person's mentor, a representative in a swing state. So basically, Hillary used the PAC. Once she announced her candidacy, dumped the PAC, cut the money, okay? And then, instead of taking homeboy and the rest of them that was working for her ass to try to get her elected, she hired somebody who is a damn ward or mentee of somebody that she needed in a swing state. You can't build your house on sand, niece. That was strike one. Okay? I'd given Ready for Hillary 2 years of my life. So had Quentin. After this unceremonious rejection, my support for her was now tepid. And we all know, bitch, do not try Omarosa, because that bitch, we already know. Hillary, you fucked up! Okay? Moving forward, the Hillary campaign would rely heavily on data collection and analysis. Democrats do love their data. And not on face-to-face outreach and human connection. This approach will prove to be their downfall in the end, and she ain't never motherfucking lied. Hillary did not go on that campaign trail. I know a lot of people voted for Hillary. You may feel some kind of way. I'm not here to choose sides, but facts are facts. And it is a fact that a lot of those states that Trump flipped, her ass did not go visit, or she only visited once. We all know Hillary cold as a fish. She don't interview well. These are facts. Can you imagine what had happened if Omarosa was on Team Hillary? That's the bottom line. Now, the entire time, we're going to get into how she ended up working for Trump. This is interesting. The entire time I've known Donald Trump, he'd been talking about running for president. In 2003, he talked about 2004. In 2007, he talked about 2008. In 2011, he talked about 2012. So this is something that Donald had been thinking about for quite some time. Okay? Quite some time. Now, there have been many efforts to recruit him to run, but none of those runs ever materialized. So people was trying to get Donald Trump to run for president probably because they thinking about TV Donald Trump and cool Donald Trump, not knowing who this motherfucker really is. Okay? Each election cycle, reporters would ask me if Donald Trump was ever going to run. I would respond with a Donald like never say never. Okay? So here's where we go. Okay? On June 16th, 2015, just 2 weeks after I'd been misled by the Clinton campaign, he proved many naysayers wrong. Trump and Melania descended that famous gold escalator in Trump Tower, and he declared his candidacy for president. We all remember that moment. Melania was looking snatched as a bitch. One thing about her, she always looks sickening. I mean, she's a damn robot. I don't get nothing out of her, but she looks sickening. And we all remember that escalator. First thing I said was, even if he don't win, if he do win, she gonna be the most snatched first lady, one of the first snatched. I know we love Michelle, but I'm a fashion guy, so hey. Now, I watched the announcement in my Los Angeles home. When I heard his comments about Mexican immigrants, because he started that shit early. When Mexico, this is Donald, when Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some I've seen, some, mind you, are good people. I thought this is over before it even got started, which most of us thought. We did not think that this was going to go this far. Most of us, we didn't think that. We thought the shit was going to be good for ratings and kiki, and we was going to move on to the real election. So, a traditional political announcement does not include such provocative statements. But Trump wasn't a traditional candidate, and he knew that bringing up this particular issue would appeal to a subset of the American population, the so-called forgotten man. We know who that is. His comments were strategically controversial, and sure enough, he had the media riveted. No shade, because how many of us were watching the news, cracking up, waiting to see what the next outrageous thing he was going to say was? A lot of us. We have to admit that. We as a public, the media has to admit that we did play a part in this shit getting out of hand. That's just a fact. Okay? Once again, he was topic A across the country. I remember receiving an avalanche of texts and calls from various people who all asked me the same question. What do you think? I wasn't sure. I was bemused, like many Americans, by the spectacle of a Trump candidacy. Part of me thought he was dead in the water. Most of us did. Part of me knew to never bet against Donald Trump. I thought, we'll have to wait and see. Until the day he entered the race, I never heard anybody say Donald Trump is a racist. He was a pop cultural superstar referenced by dozens of rappers in their rhymes. No motherfucking shade. He was close friends with Diddy, Russell Simmons, and Don King. Donald Trump does not discriminate in his workplace against people of color. I visited a dozen Trump properties and spent time in his organization, and his staffs are very diverse at every level. As I thought at the time, he is racial though, okay? In that he uses race and racial relations to manipulate people. I'm going to go deeper for y'all. Willie Lynch. Okay? I believe the birther movement stuff was opposition research, as he claimed, but it also had the purpose of riling up the Republican base of white voters. Trump's racialization of illegal immigrants and his rhetoric about building a wall served the same goal. I believe then that Donald Trump was intentionally pitting races against each other for political gain, just as he pitted races against each other on The Apprentice for ratings. Now, at the end of the day, if you notice, this is where we have to have a moral discussion. Okay? You know this, Omarosa. This is where I got to call you out. But you still worked for him, though. Now, part of me feels like we always got to have, like she said, like we learned yesterday, if you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu. So part of me understands that you got to have somebody in there that's smart. But you got to check this motherfucker. But in hindsight, the type person that Omarosa is, meaning that, would we have gotten all of this tea if she did that earlier? So we got to think about that. So she goes, in hindsight, I see the flaws in my thinking, and it probably should have bothered me more than it did. But as I mentioned, I had a blind spot where Trump was concerned because of my proximity to him. Sometimes, and this is some true shit, sometimes you can be so close to a motherfucker and think you know him that you can't see what your homeboys see or your girls see, because you all in. But as I mentioned, I had a blind spot because of my proximity. I couldn't see him from a certain angle that everyone else did. When I met him, he was the famous billionaire, and I was a hopeful, aspiring businesswoman trying to impress him. The Apprentice experience changed my life from anonymous to famous, from weary to wealthy. As a girl who lived in extreme poverty, I equated wealth with security. Any poor person, if you never had money, bitch, you think money is going to change your life. As I come to learn, money does not protect you from pain. I associated the Trump way of life with security and freedom. When people accused him of intolerance, I simply couldn't see it. Because she was paid. That's how they get us. Pay him. Give him that contract. Give him a couple coins. Find a house. Okay? One of the earliest showcase events of the Republican primary season was the Fox News hosted debate on August 6, 2015. I watched along with 24 million other viewers, the highest rated primary debate in history. Now, let's pause here, because she's right. Think about how the media played up this election. They narrated this election like a TV show. When in history have we ever seen presidential debates in airplane hangars with lighting sets and you got their faces flashing on the screen like it's the motherfucking Hunger Games? It's never been done like that. But at the end of the day, they're news media. It's a difference between news and journalism and news media. The Trump presidency is teaching us that, okay? I was not part of the campaign at that point. So during this first primary debate, when we was in the bar cracking the fuck up, she wasn't on the campaign then, okay? I was an outside observer with personal knowledge of Trump, okay? 10 candidates crowded the stage, but all eyes and most of the questions were directed at the most controversial candidate, Donald Trump. Now, this was also the debate that Megyn Kelly over at Fox News, and now she left Fox News, and she got this show that don't nobody watch, and it's like, bitch, you got rid of Tamara Hall for that. Anyway, Megyn Kelly was the debate moderator. Asked him directly, you called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. He replied, only Rosie O'Donnell, and the crowd cheered. I'm not gonna lie, bitch, I cackled when he said that. We all thought it was a game. We thought it was a game. We laughed at that shit. Everybody, like, admitted she laughed at that shit. Okay? Now, and I'm not being paid by the publisher, like I said. I just talk about things that I like. This book happens to be something that I like. Anybody who has followed me for a while knows that I'm into politics, music, pop culture, the whole gamut. So this is not the publisher. Okay? Now, where we at? Okay. He was not happy with how she put him on the spot, Megyn Kelly. The next day, he complained about Megyn Kelly's treatment to CNN's Don Lemon and said, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever. We remember that because everybody went off. All of the women's rights groups, they had a field day with that. At that time, I believe that the war on women Kelly was describing was really only a war on Rosie O'Donnell. I didn't believe he was at war with all women. Rather, he had personality clashes with specific women, just as he had personality clashes with specific men. I see the holes in that thought process now. I can look back and see a pattern of sexist treatment and derogatory comments towards women going back to my first season on The Apprentice. But again, I had that blind spot. I couldn't see what I should have. There have been rumblings about him in the past, though. In Lost Tycoon, some book with some author he wrote, allegedly, the author had quoted Ivanka's sealed 1990 divorce deposition. Ivana, she was Donald's, I guess, first wife. How many times have he been married? Accusing her ex-husband of a violent sexual assault, a violation that she referred to as rape. So Ivana, the first wife, said in the deposition that Donald raped her ass. But then, in July 2015, this is during campaign time, Ivana Trump released a statement that said, the story of the violation is totally without merit, claiming it was an overstatement made in the heat of a divorce battle. So basically, he called the bitch like, bitch, you better clean this the fuck up, or either he paid or some shit, he probably was going to cut her off. It could have been a number of things. Allegation of sexual harassment emerged from women ranging from an up-and-coming model to a former receptionist. Jill Harth, a Florida woman who with her boyfriend was some kind of shit next. Okay. So, like his alleged racism, his sexism could be explained away or somehow justified if you were inclined to do so, as I was back then. Trump's woman problem of 2015 seemed reminiscent of what Bill Clinton had faced back in the late 90s and was mostly limited to spats with Megyn Kelly and Rosie O'Donnell. It would be another 14 months before his women problem of 2016, which was the Access Hollywood tape, and accusations from more than a dozen women of sexual harassment. And of course, his woman problem of 2017 would bring porn stars and playmate payoffs. So that's Stormy Daniels. We all know that she got paid off. Well, she didn't get paid off. I think it's one of them. Yeah, she got paid off somebody. I don't know. I've been through the Clinton White House, so I've become desensitized to politicians being accused of behaving badly, with and without cause. In a political environment, it was all too common for a man to be accused of misbehavior. Okay, so, along with Katrina Campins, my Apprentice Season 1 roommate and current Trump International Realty employee, I appeared on CNN's Reliable Sources with Brian Stelter on August 9th, okay, to talk about Trump and the woman problem. I said, Donald Trump does not have a woman problem. I think this is the equivalent of going through somebody's trash and cherry-picking things you think will bring down his campaign. Going through comments that Donald Trump made in the last 30 years is just the lowest form of journalism. Just because he doesn't like Rosie O'Donnell doesn't mean he hates all women. He does not have a woman problem. It's so clear to me that Megyn Kelly has a bone to pick with Donald Trump. I call it very, very personal. Donald Trump is really good about reading people's intentions, and her intention was not to give him a fair chance of showing where he stands on women's issues. Money, power, it'll get you. So then the bitch went on CNN on August 10th. So the next day she goes on Don Lemon's show. okay, who asked her to talk about Trump's women problem. So Omarosa goes, we squandered the whole weekend speculating whether or not he's talking about hormones or not, instead of trying to figure out about gender wage gap, talking about reproductive health for women, talking about funding or defunding Planned Parenthood. Shame on the press, shame on the media, shame on people wasting women's time. We need to know where the candidates are on these serious issues. Now, part of me agrees with her. We should have been talking about the issues. But the whole campaign, think about it, as viewers, we didn't give a fuck about the issues. We wanted a TV show. Our last election was a damn reality show, and we fucking lived. Okay, so here's where she gets the invite. Trump and his bare bones campaign must have liked what they heard. A few days later, on August 15th, I received a phone call from Michael Cohen. Now, sidebar, Michael Cohen is the lawyer who got his house raided for some shit that's going on with Trump. Then he flipped. This Michael Cohen, okay? Just to put this in context, okay? A few days later, on August 15th, I received a call. Vice President of the Trump Organization and Special Counsel. He was on the case to fix the problem with women. Michael Cohen is what you see is what you get kind of guy. He comes off as profane and blunt with bravado, and that's exactly who he is. He's also very funny and very street smart. He'd have to be. He graduated from an average law school and managed to hustle up with clients in a career. All right, okay. So, from the bottom of the food chain, bitch, she is dragging his ass. He said he's from the bottom of the food chain. He rose to become the personal lawyer to the President of the United States. That took a lot of imagination, maneuvering, common sense, and creative problem solving. Not to mention a flexible ethical code, which we all know he got. The most people don't have. I liked Michael. He came in the Trump world a few years after I did, and we sized each other up as straight shooters. He thought of me as a rebel, as someone who wouldn't be taken aback by his colorful use of language or intimidated by the threats that flowed from his lips towards anyone who put down or disrespected Trump. Because he liked me, he was courteous, comfortable, and friendly. Around anyone he didn't trust, which was nearly all of humanity, he was aggressive, in your face, curt, and unapologetically brazen. So basically, he was an ass. That's what she basically saying. Matthew. For his part, Trump was not always respectful to Michael, often mocking him and belittling him. Trump had sussed out that Michael would work 10 times harder to earn praise if it were rarely given. How many people do we know like that? Think about it. Ladies, fellas. When a motherfucker cheating on you, he be good as shit to the mistress who treat him like shit. He ain't never that good to the wife. Michael began the call by telling me how ridiculous it was for anyone to accuse Trump of sexism, and talked about the Trump Organization's roster being full of female executives. He proceeded very excitedly to talk about how I could continue doing in an official capacity what I've been doing as a surrogate to help change the public perception about Trump's attitude toward women and African Americans. So this is where that bullshit Omarosa's the ambassador to black people title came into play. And that kid who shot up the black church doesn't help us either. He's talking about Dylan Roof. So this was around the time of the Dylan Roof shit. So it was already hot. So they basically was calling Omarosa to appease black people and kind of calm us down. Doesn't that sound familiar? How many times has that happened in history? Okay. So, Hillary Clinton had said on Nevada PBS the day after the shooting, so this is after Dylan Roof killed them people in that church, we have to speak out against hate and prejudice. Like, for example, a recent entry into the Republican presidential campaign said some very inflammatory things about Mexicans. Everybody should stand up and say that's not acceptable. So Hillary had already started the shade. He ain't even got to Hillary yet, but the shade had already started, okay? The campaign must have seen me as a two-pronged solution. I was black and a woman. You know, this is, like, she's so smart, she's stupid. Must have seen. Bitch, that's what you was. You was the woman and you was black, bitch. You was a 2-for-1. What the fuck you think you was there for? I said I'd be happy to discuss it, and he rushed me off the phone with promises to call back with Corey Lewandowski, the campaign director. Very shortly, give me an hour, he said. The Clinton campaign had squandered my support, but it seemed like I was about to be offered a position on Team Trump. Bitch, you don't want me? I'll go to the competition. She ain't got no cut cards. His politics at that point, with the exception of immigration and trade, was still very murky, and I known him to be socially liberal. I was curious what they'd offer, but I hadn't made up my mind about whether I'd sign on. Corey and Michael called back. Any help you can provide would be greatly appreciated. I still wanted to hear the offer, so she like, bitch, I hear all that, y'all want me to help, but where is the money, basically? I discussed what plan they envision. I still wanted to hear their offer, and I discussed what plan they envisioned to reach members of the African American community who were disgruntled with the DNC. I knew they were out there having just dialogue with them while on Ready for Hillary. So Hillary, another mistake she made. Okay, Hillary pissed people off in that pack, in that Ready for Hillary pack, the black pack we had covered earlier. So those people in those packs that run those packs, a lot of the times, they have influence on networks, okay? So she shot herself in the foot already, fucking that up. Case in point, Omarosa, okay? All right. I suggested that I could engage with black religious leaders and in the black business community. Sidebar, I didn't cover the chapter, but Omarosa allegedly grew up in church, belonged to a church for a while. Her husband's a pastor, so she's in the church, okay? So Corey goes, I love that. You're intimately involved in black social and professional networks. How can we harness all that? Well, she is. For professional networks, Omarosa, she know people. Michael chimed in. It's a misconception that Democrats own the African American vote. You could be the greatest surrogate for talking about how Trump is really the person they should want and need to make this country great again. He's inspirational and a job creator. He can deliver greatness. Everyone is looking for a leader. I watched you on TV and in the boardroom. You could be the messenger for him. You could deliver his message better than anyone. Bitch, they was laying it on thick. They was selling this shit. Michael, so Omarosa, I gotta give her credit right here. Michael tended to speak in those kinds of paragraphs with cult-like rhapsody about the wonders of Donald Trump. Corey and I would just pause and wait for him to finish. So they basically like, yeah, bitch, whatever. The Congressional Black Caucus is meeting right after the debate. I said Trump should go and meet a lot of people, okay? Corey and I came up with a game plan for me to generate media discussion as a surrogate and to create my own events with my networks. The campaign was very small with zero infrastructure, no housing, and at that time it was operating out of Trump Tower. On September 9th, when the newest edition of Rolling Stone came out, Trump talked about his women problem by criticizing candidate and former Hewlett-Packard CEO Carly Fiorina to a reporter saying, look at that face. Would anyone vote for that? Can you imagine that? The face of our next president? I mean, she's a woman, and I'm not supposed to say bad things, but really, folks, come on, are you serious? I remember that. Now, Carly Fiorina, the mistake I think she made was that she was coming for Hillary. She's a Republican, so she's supposed to come for Hillary, but she came for Hillary too early. She was looking at long game and not realizing that you have to beat out 9 other candidates to get the nomination to come for Hillary. She wasn't thinking that far, so she knocked herself out the box. Okay? Great. Now, when I read that, I leaned away from boarding the Trump train. So when she heard that, she was like, bitch, wait a minute. But then, as if sensing my hesitation across time and space, I got a phone call from Donald Trump himself on September 13th, 2015. We hadn't spoken in some time. So Donald, calculating, He calls Omarosa. Hi, honey, I remember my pals. How do you like Arnold Schwarzenegger doing The Apprentice? I own it, so I had to approve it. I like the idea. I said I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. How are you doing? All is well, Mr. Trump. Did you meet a new boyfriend? You probably had them eating out of your hand. Omarosa at that time, she goes, I'm still single. I said, not flinching at his asking about my sex life. It was normal for him, and therefore normal for our conversation. We gonna let y'all think about that. Mr. Trump, I'm getting an overwhelming response of people wanting to help you. It'd be great to do more outreach, okay? You know what happened? 25% of the African American people are supporting me. No one's had more than 9%. Lies. We're going to pause. Actually, since 1980, Republican candidates have gotten up to 12% of the black vote. So, bitch, he was lying. Never had facts. Alternative facts, okay? I'm not surprised. 25% support for Republican is unheard of. It's the biggest in the history of politics. I love you getting involved. Lying his ass off. I've been speaking with Michael and Corey. He said, you said on one show that you hadn't made up your mind. You said you were a Democrat or some shit. Melania loves you. That killed the great interview. Hopefully you can make a decision. It hurts me that you're not voting for me. Then Omarosa goes, well, I couldn't vote for a Republican in the primary. I'm a registered Democrat. I have to register as a Republican to vote for you. So Donald goes, okay, I love you. Take care. Donald often signed off with an I love you. The next thing I know, Michael Glassner, Trump's political director, called me and encouraged me to come to New York and support Trump. Okay? He said he got a call from Trump and he needed to firm up my coming on board. So after much thought and prayer, I decided to proceed. No one thought he had a remote chance of winning the primaries. The field was full of veteran politicians like Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz, and Marco Rubio. Remember, the Bushes are a dynasty. Jeb Bush, at that time, had the most campaign funds out of any of the Republican candidates. So he was poised to take that spot. But the problem was, he had the swagger like his brother had. He was corny as shit. So he had the money, but he didn't have the swagger to execute and take it to the next level. Because say what you want, George W. Bush, he got swag. He know how to finesse shit. His brother ain't that guy. So, I thought it might be an interesting experience to work on a campaign at a high level. I've been planning on doing just that, albeit for another candidate across the aisle. And since Trump had little chance of winning, it would be a no harm, no foul. So basically she's saying, I entertain myself and do this bullshit. He ain't gonna win anyway, so I just get it to put it on my resume. Okay? The day after I signed on, a Dallas rally outside the American Airlines Center drew a crowd of 15,000 people inside and 1,000 protesters outside. In his speech, he said, if I'm elected president, you are going to be so proud of your country again. You're going to remember this evening, and you're going to say we were part of a movement to take back our country, and we will make America great again. This is that first rally that we watched on the news. Okay? And we was like, bitch, this is when we first saw, this was the first sign that shit was about to get real. That first rally. We saw all the motherfuckers in that goddamn stadium. Okay? From my unique perspective, having gotten to know his marketing tactics for appealing to mass audiences on a TV show, I recognize this performance for what it was. A branding opportunity. That's also the first time I think he said make America great again. The previous month, in the article titled What Omarosa Gets Right About Trump and Why That's Horrifying, the Washington Post printed parts of my interview from MSNBC's Up with Steve Kornacki. I said, in this part, she hit it on the head. Reality television has now taken over television. People want to see real moments and see life unfold in front of them. Not scripted, but real moments. When you have a big reality TV star as the front runner for the Republican nomination, there's no way to separate it. This is the new reality. Donald Trump is the front runner, and you have to deal with everything that comes with that. He's going to give his position on serious issues, and he may also call people pigs. But that's part of Trump thing that comes with the package. She ain't never lie. She told you. She said it in the interview. Okay? It is what it is. Trump appeared as himself on Saturday Night Live on November 7th, 2015. So this is when everybody's still thinking it's a joke. The media's still giving him press. They're giving him free promotion. So he doesn't, the reason why Donald Trump didn't have to have the campaign dollars that a lot of the other candidates had to get was because the press was giving them free publicity. They was giving it to him. So he didn't have to have as much money as Jeb Bush. We love a good show here in America. So he was on Saturday Night Live. The cold open was about the utopia of a Trump presidency. Great economy, the obliteration of ISIS, a trade war with China, which we are now in now. And according to Secretary of State Omarosa, played by Sasha Zamata, a Russian retreat from Ukraine, which is not going to happen. When Ivanka came out for a brief cameo, no one clapped for that bitch. I gotta go watch this episode now. Presidential candidates did appear on SNL, but I thought it was bizarre for him to do so when he was trying to legitimize his candidacy to a doubting public. But then again, the nation as a whole seemed desperate for something different and entertaining. Americans love a show. We love a show. And a presidential candidate and campaign. I was disenchanted with the Democrats after being duped by the Clinton people. But it went back further than that, all the way to the Bill Clinton White House and my time with the DNC. I could see clearly that Trump was in a unique position to get Americans who never engaged in politics before to vote. Not only rural whites, but young African Americans and Latinos. Anyone who would respond to his star power. He could appeal to independent black voters and Reagan Democrats. I made it my goal to reach those people, Trump Democrats, with outreach to women, independents, and minority voters. Once I committed, I was all in, and I hoped he'd win a few primaries at last. I knew we had to move fast. Candidate insurgent Ben Carson was making inevitable inroads with conservatives and minorities. But because of Trump's past history as a Democrat and an independent, he could compete for that support. So remember, we forget, well, I ain't forget, you remember Ben Carson was running for president. So Ben Carson is a black Republican. So you got to kind of jostle for that position amongst black Republicans, or some of them. Okay. In my time with him, he'd been more liberal than conservative. I convinced myself that my historical knowledge of his views would match his current positions on broader issues. Now, I want y'all to listen to this. Even on immigration, he wasn't so far off from Hillary's. In 2006, as a senator for New York, Hillary Clinton voted in favor of the Secure Fence Act's 700-mile fence between the United States and Mexico. You gotta watch those Clintons. Between the Netflix documentaries about how they did the prison system and reading this shit, the Clintons, they were sliding shit past people, yo. That shit is crazy. All of this might have been how I rationalized joining him, but I didn't have to push myself too hard to do it. Trump, my mentor and friend, had asked me to support him. His staff had given me the full court press. I'd been ready for Hillary, but when push came to shove, she hadn't been ready for me. Team Trump was ready, willing and eager for my help. Not only that, Donald Trump gave me everything I asked for. In April, with Michael Cohen, Pastor Darrell Scott, and George businessman Bruce Lavelle, the National Diversity Coalition for Trump was born. There was no Office of Engagement or Diversity Outreach for the campaign, so we established it. Our mission was to represent the voices of our communities and to recruit, mobilize, and educate citizens to help us support Trump. So, they basically made a coalition for all of the people to do that. Okay? Now, Pastor Darrell Scott wanted to organize black ministers to come to New York on November 30th. This was in 2015, to announce the coalition and meet with Mr. Trump at Trump Tower. My efforts on the coalition as the director of African American outreach for the campaign, and as the director of communications for the Office of Public Liaison in the White House, was to get minorities, particularly African Americans, to sit down at the table with the leadership and discuss issues that were important to them. So basically her job was to wrangle all the black people. We got 100 church leaders into a closed-door conference with Trump. Now, I don't know, I know Birth of a Nation, the new movie that came out a couple years ago, got a lot of shit with Nate Parker's, rape allegations and all that. But for some reason, white folks love to think that the way to black people is through fucking church. Okay? Newsflash. We are way more intelligent than that. This is not 1860, bitch. Okay? Frank M. Reed and them is not going to change my mind. Anyway. The meeting lasts 2.5 hours, and afterward, Trump told the media up to 100 outlets covered the event. So 100 outlets covered this event about wanting to help the African American community in any way he could. Inside the room, there was a lively discussion, and the candidate expressed his desire to raise unemployment rates for African Americans and provide better education and safety in predominantly black neighborhoods. Bitch, he was just selling his shit. He didn't give a fuck, and they fell for it. It was the first sign of the disconnect between things Trump said privately to people face to face and what he said from the podium at rallies. So this is after that first Make America Great Again. This is right after that first Make America Great Again rally. He goes and meets all the black pastors and says something different. It was the first sign of disconnect. There was some controversy about what was otherwise a very positive, successful event. Hope Hicks, the campaign spokesperson, had originally described the minister's participation as a prelude to their endorsement of the candidate, which was not true. So instead of headlines about Trump opening a dialogue with black church leaders, there were headlines like Esquire saying, no, 100 black pastors are not endorsing Donald Trump today. This would be the first of many, many communication issues that will undermine or sabotage my African American outreach during the campaign and throughout my year in the White House. So, let's pause at this Hope Hicks bitch. Now, Google Hope Hicks. Now, if we remember from yesterday, from our first chapter, Hope Hicks was the bitch that colluded with John Kelly to get Omarosa's ass fired. Keep that in mind. I always found Hope to be very nice, capable, sensitive, and out of her depth. She can shade the shade, bitch. She handled PR for Ivanka's fashion line. So this bitch, prior to working in the White House, was PR for Ivanka's clothes and shit. She never worked in any government capacity ever. And she's the spokesperson for Donald Trump's presidential campaign. She lacked the understanding of politics for the job she was given. She didn't even know the basic terminology. I remember once talking to her about GOTV. GOTV means get out the vote. For one of the primaries. She said, what's GOTV? I said, surprised. It was Politics 101. Basic political jargon. And she didn't know that. She was always Googling terms while we were in meetings. So the bitch was in the meeting on Google and shit trying to translate. This bitch on Google Translate in a meeting. This is the spokesperson for a White House. This is who is picked for this job. She was always Googling terms while we were in meetings, always playing catch up, always sensitive about what she didn't know. She was so painfully aware of her inadequacies, she refused to speak publicly about the campaign or as a surrogate to express the candidate's views. For every other press secretary on any politician's campaign, the number one job is to talk to the press. She never did. Which, mind you, we never really saw her. Think about it. In this whole campaign circle, we know, because they made it like a TV show, most of the people that worked in this campaign. I had to Google her because we didn't see her. She never did on camera. Hope was terrified to give statements or even entertain the idea of it. She lacked confidence because she knew she wasn't qualified to talk about policy or the political process. She had no insight into or understanding of what was going on and could not speak on behalf of the candidate or the president. So why was she there? That's a good fucking question. And this is true. I believe this to be true because look at who he's appointed between Betsy DeVos, Ben Carson doing housing. This is true. Trump has an affinity for pretty women. He'd rather have a pretty woman with no experience around than a qualified, less attractive woman. Through our work on the NDC, I spent a lot of time with Michael Cohen and came to understand that there was some tension between him and Corey. They were both jockeying for their attention from Donald J. Trump and wanted to firm up their positions in Trump world, but they clashed big time. Corey didn't see the importance of having diversity outreach, but Michael did. So Corey was like, fuck the black people, fuck these Mexicans, bitch, we all in. Okay? Because of his long-standing position with Trump, Michael won out. Donald encouraged us to launch the NDC officially as an organization, which we did a few months later. Michael was one of the most fervent Trump worshippers, cult followers among many, with whom Trump surrounded himself. Trump World is a cult of personality focused solely on Donald J. Trump. And Donald, like a cult leader, can spot susceptibility in people in an instant. They were fascinated by fame, power, Trump's charisma, and would do anything to be close to Trump and win his favor. Michael Cohen would pay off porn stars, which we know is true, and make questionable deals, which will ultimately be his undoing. No shade, because they rated his shit. Corey's loyalty continues to be strong to this day. And mine, I like to think I wasn't as acceptable, but I allowed myself to be swept up as a member of Trump World until I wasn't. Okay, folks, that's our chapter for today. Now, we got to unpack this shit again. Now, the Hillary Clinton shade, like, and this is not just based off of this book, but the Hillary Clinton shade, Hillary Clinton, I feel like she just needs to be done. Like, reading all the shit. And the thing is, it's not like these are new revelations, but just to see it from the perspective of somebody who was there in the 90s and did work on the campaign now. And us as viewers, we're watching this bitch on TV be cold. Remember that bullshit she did on Hot 97? When I think it was Breakfast Club, where she was like, I too curry hot sauce in my bag. Like, bitch. They took black people for granted. They took Democrats for granted. They did not shake hands and kiss babies. And that's part of the reason, a big reason why they lost. And then on top of that, instead of her just bringing Bernie Sanders on as her running mate, she picks a motherfucker who has no charisma, who got ate up alive by Mike Pence in the one vice president candidate debate that they had. Like, this shit was crazy. Really. Okay? It is what it is. But we're going to leave it here. We did just over an hour today. Now, make sure you subscribe to me if you want to do that. I'm on Instagram at GoDDM. If you do want me to read another chapter, I think I'm free tomorrow. We can do like 7 or 8 or so. I'll post the time. If you do want me to read a chapter, just leave a clap, a heart, or whatever. You know, like I said, I'm not here to debate political policy. Okay, I'm a fan of politics. I watch it. You know, I keep up with it, but by no means am I a political professional. But at the same time, you shouldn't have to be a political professional to understand how the country you live in runs. And that's why I read this book. Partly because it interests me, but also because I feel like, why can't we break this down in layman's terms? Why do I have to go and do research, or I have to have this political, in-depth knowledge of verbiage in order to understand what's going on? Okay. So yeah, just leave a clap. This shit is crazy. I see y'all. Oh, okay. Y'all want the book club? Y'all want more readings? Okay. So I will do another reading. Once again, my podcast is coming next month. Secretary of Shade. We're gonna go ahead and do it. Make sure you subscribe. I'll drop the link soon. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the likes, the supports, the shares. I really didn't think people would care if I read a book, but hey, I guess we'll keep doing it till nobody stop watching. Y'all have a good night. Be blessed. And if you know Emmauel, tag this bitch, because I'm just saying, bitch. Tag this bitch. Y'all have a good night.